He's back, man. It's been about 2 years. The great Stan Fevrine. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well, man. A lot going on.
A lot going on, I'm sure. First off, the last time you were here, I told you this off camera, but I want to say it on camera. You were the very first guest we had in the studio.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was by design. You know, what we trying to do here at WBH Radio is sports, it's education, it's entrepreneurship, and you fit that mold to a T. So we said, you know what, we're going to have Stan in here as our very first guest in studio. Stan, how many jobs you got these days?
I got a lot of jobs, man. I'm a counselor at the school level, at the high school, at Grady High School. I got my sports leadership program. That's my own thing. Mm-hmm. I'm at a couple of schools with that. I'm back at Brooklyn College with that, with all the sports teams there. Well, not all the sports teams, but like 5 sports teams there. Yeah. I do the sports leadership at Grady as well. Yeah. I did it with Maspeth High School in the preseason. So I'm working.
You working. When you told me that you were doing sports leadership at Brooklyn College, you know, you said you were working with the men's basketball program.
And the women's. That
made me very happy. You know what I'm saying? We know you've been associated with the women's program for a long time, but being able to work with the men's program with your guy, my guy, head coach Jeffrey Jean Baptiste,
yes.
You know, that made me very happy. When I was working as his assistant, my one goal was to help one of us, a former player, secure that position long term. Mm-hmm. So he can do cool things like call his man and stand in. So he can do cool things like respect the alumni that have played for him. You know what I'm saying? We need that connection. We needed one of our own. So that was my only goal. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So to see the years later, you guys are working together, helping to mentor the young men was pretty cool. How'd you guys do this year?
Rough year. I think coming into the season, in terms of recruitment, Jeff had a couple players that were supposed to play for him. Some of them didn't pan out. You know, they had other things going on. A lot of guys were injured. Yeah. New system in place. You know, he was running that 5-out stuff, and he had to teach it to the guys for the first time. So he also had to establish new leadership on the team. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of obstacles. So it was a rough season. Mm-hmm. But towards the end of the season, though, things came together. So going into next year, I think he has a lot of good momentum, some nice players coming back, and then he's recruiting hard, so he got some nice pieces coming in too.
Leadership, Stan, how would you define it? You know what I'm saying? How does that differ from just scheme and X and O's?
So my main focus is self-leadership, right? Self-discipline, self-leadership, composure, and really helping the athletes tap into their best self, right? So we can create and build championship culture. Because we can't really depend on just one guy or just, you know, especially D3, you need solid teams.
Yes, sir.
Because you don't just get it's hard to go far with just 1 or 2 guys, right? So you need solid guys, and anything can come up. Anything can come up. At the drop of a dime, somebody might say, "Hey, look, listen, coach, I tried my best, but I got to make some money.
Yeah.
I got to go make money." Or, "Look, my mom is sick."
They have to step away from the team.
And you got to step away from the team. Or like, "Yo, this is not what I thought it was," and then they step away. So D3 can be very, very challenging. Mm-hmm. So you need self-leaders. Mm-hmm. You need self-leaders. So you establish the self-leaders first, right? You help them tap into their best selves and everything that the sport has to teach them. Because a lot of our guys ain't going lead. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not like these guys are like, although some do, you know, that is their goal.
Right.
But a lot of guys, they want to be teachers, lawyers, doctors, firefighters, whatever it is. There's so much to learn from the sport.
Yes,
the sport teaches you so much. So my goal is to help them tap into their best self doing this thing that's really hard and time-consuming. Mm-hmm. You know, 5, 6, 7, 8 months of this thing that's teaching you about yourself constantly.
Yeah.
And you're doing it through play, so it's beautiful.
When you talk to Jeff, your head coach, but also your friend, when you talk to him about his leadership ability, or when you give him advice, or when you critique him, what's that conversation like?
So me and Jeff have a very special relationship. So this was my first time really working with him on a professional level, right? Where our conversations have to be tailored to more of a professional. It has to be more professional. So usually we joke around, we go on vacations together, we know each other's families. So there's a certain way that we speak to each other. Right? That doesn't work. when your team is struggling and you're trying to put things together. So that was something that we had to establish from the very beginning. But I knew that, and me and him spoke about it. So
there was an adjustment period.
It was an adjustment
Was
period.
it uncomfortable a little bit?
No. Because that's my brother. He trusts me, I trust him. And we had those conversations every night. We're trying to figure out ways to get the guys to be better, for him to be better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had some tough conversations because there were some things I was like, look, I don't think that works, right? And he's like, well, it got to work.
Right.
And then, you know, later on in the season, he's like, look, let me try something else. What do you think? Well, I like that, or I don't like that. You know, so we had to, and I got to be sensitive to it because this is my first year working with him. So I can't just say anything. Whereas if I'm working with Alex, I can say, hey, coach, look, listen, you know what it is. We did this back in the day.
Right.
That don't work. And he'll be like, yeah, I know, but with Jeff, we had to, you know, even though we're friends and we're close, we had to establish some ground rules in terms of how we're going to have these conversations.
For you, Stan, as a leader, what is it like to make a recommendation to coach, you know, and coach say, okay, I consider that, but still go in the other direction? What's that like for you?
So I spent many years as an assistant. So that happens all the time, right? Sometimes you'll have all these ideas and you can't react. You got to respond. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. Reacting is like emotion in the moment. Like, yo, coach, you got to do this. Responding, I got to take some time and kind of feel out what's going on. All right, our defense is struggling, right? How can I get our defense to be better? I got to go back and watch film. I got to watch hours of film. Because the head coach does. I got to go watch even more film if I'm going to bring him something. I got to go watch film, and I got to come to him and say, hey, look, these are the numbers, right? This is what's happening. I can't just go off the eye test because we're both watching the same thing. Now, me and Alex had a special relationship where we worked together for so long that he knows that I did my homework. Right. So if I say, yo, coach, look, listen, I like this. He'd be like, all right, Stan, I'll think about it. And then tomorrow it might be in practice, or it might not. But I don't feel no way. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just how it works.
How it is. Alex Lang was is the longtime head coach at Brooklyn College for the women's squad. And you served as his assistant for many years. When Jeff invited me to be an assistant on his staff, I was amazed. You know, I thought it was a special opportunity. Again, I wanted to help one of us, a former player, establish his credibility. You know, especially not just amongst the athletes, but the conference. Like, yo, he ain't just a homie. He is a coach. You know what I'm saying? And when I got to be a part of his staff, I knew he was a basketball mind, but I was impressed by his leadership. You know, his ability to develop young men, his ability to build a team. You know what I'm saying? And I took great pride when he won the Coach of the Year award. You know what I'm saying? I felt like, dang, maybe I played a hand in that. You know what I'm saying? Helping him to lay the foundation for what was going to be. So in that first year, he won Coach of the Year. Second year, he won the city championship. These last 2 years have kind of been a struggle, Stan. Why do you think that is? After that great start, Coach of the Year and champion, why the struggle?
I think it's an adjustment period. I think coming out of COVID especially, and you got different types of athletes that think different, right? And he has to go out and he's doing that. He got to recruit the players that he feels that fits his system. And he's creating a new system. He's coming into his own. Because remember, he was under Padias for a long time. And then he was under McAuliffe. And then he came into his own, right? But this is still early. It's very early. And Brooklyn itself, as a place, is going through a lot of changes. So getting players in looks different now. Yeah. Right? From like 10 years ago, from 5 years ago. It looks different. The type of athletes that you're going to recruit, the connections that you make. You make some connections as an assistant. That's one thing. But as a head coach, it's a different ballgame. You know? So as an assistant, you could be out. As a head coach, you got to be around a lot. So you got to depend on your assistants to do that job. And again, D3, assistants ain't full-time. Right? So assistants got full-time jobs and stuff. So he's coming to his own in terms of bringing in his own players and created a system, you know, for those players.
Stan, my stance, and I said this on a podcast before, that man is asked to do a full-time job with half the resources, Stan.
Yeah.
So I see the struggles. My coach he didn't lose his ability to coach the game. I feel like the fact that he's part-time, and I feel Brooklyn hasn't given him the resources to be what he needs to succeed, like his competition has at John Jay, like the guys at Baruch have, is going to eventually catch up to him. So I don't look at the last 2 years as bad years. I think of the fact that he won Coach of the Year and won championship is that much more phenomenal.
Now, Jeff is an amazing, like he's, as a player, he was a quiet leader, right? And he's generally a chill person, just laid back. Yeah. But he has a certain intensity and a certain love for people, you know, especially people development, that it's going to get him far. He's going to do very well as a coach.
Right.
Because he understands development, he cares about young people, and he has that killer instinct. And he's going to challenge them to also have it. He's going to come into his own. Having a full-time job at Brooklyn would change everything, without a doubt, because he could only give that much more support, right? And
staying full-time, you could monitor grades, you can do one-on-ones. Recruitment, Stan. You go back to his championship year. The championship game MVP was Anthony McLean. The story goes that one of the alumni helped bring in Anthony McLean because Jeff is only one man. You know what I'm saying? He can't get to every game. That's how small the margin is for error. You know what I'm saying? If that alumni didn't bring in that championship game MVP, who knows what we would have been? You know what I'm saying? So, Stan, if you look in the conference and his competition, Baruch just went back to back. They have the luxury of thinking about their basketball team all day, working in the athletic department. Like, yo, my man is asked to do the job with one hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot. He got. Jeff has a couple jobs. You want to talk about me having a couple jobs? He has a couple jobs.
What can we do as alumni? You speak about the changes going on at the school. Y'all just got a new athletic director.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What can we do to help tell the story of our coach and let them know that, hey, we may need a little bit more resources if we're going to really make a run at being a national power, which I think Brooklyn can with that name.
So I think, Brooklyn College is a very special place because so many of our alumni go on to be teachers.
Big time.
And coaches. I mean, we run the PSAL. Nobody else has as many alumni in the PSAL as Brooklyn College. So I think, one, creating that space for everybody to come back home, right? Creating that space for, and you see it. A lot of our guys are coming, a lot of our young ladies and our young men are coming back to Brooklyn to watch the games, right? Every night we got alumni in the crowd. I think it's very important that our coaches on the PSAL level, our teachers on the PSL level, really go out there and push for us a little bit.
Okay.
Push for us. And it's not just that. That helps.
Push as far as recruiting and different things?
Yeah, just talking it up a little bit.
Okay.
Just talking it up a little bit. Even something small, something very small. Like Brooklyn College's next game is on this date. Let's share that on social media. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's share the ups and the downs. Yo, Jeff won Coach of the Year. Share that. Let that go through the community because there's a lot of people that are in those positions that don't know what's going on, right? So I think in terms of alumni, we just gotta be relevant and still be out there.
Okay. The new athletic director.
Yes, Mr. Smiles.
Mr. Smiles.
Yes.
What was that process like? What in selecting a new AD? How involved were you and the rest of the alumni? Like, what do you guys know about it? Because the story goes, everybody was pushing for Alex Lang, who was a longtime assistant, to get that job.
Without a doubt. So, of course, anybody that's been part of the program for a long time wants Alex to get it because he deserves it, right? He worked really, really hard, and we know from the inside what he's done and the work that he's put into to help Brooklyn College athletics become what it is now. I remember our website was trash back in the day, right? We didn't even have a website.
Right.
Now we got this popping website where kids from California, Hawaii, everybody's tapping in. They like what they see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wish he got it because that's my brother. Yeah. Of course, you're rooting for your brother. Right. So I really wish he got it. He didn't.
Question, Stan, and I think you would know the answer.
Yeah.
Alex Lang, their salaries are posted online, 90 plus. He's assistant AD. He gets to coach the women's basketball program. He is a college professor. Do we know he wanted the job?
Who, Alex?
Yeah.
No, without a doubt, of course. I mean, listen.
He would have to give up a coaching job, maybe?
I don't know, because I've seen a lot of athletic directors do both.
Okay.
So I don't know if he would have gave it up.
I'll take your word for it.
It's hard to do, though. It's hard to do.
Okay.
And also, it's hard to walk away. It's hard to walk away from coaching.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a question, that's a decision he would have had to make with him and his family.
Yeah.
If he would have got the job, he would have had to sit down with his wife. You know, he got 2 kids.
So he wanted it, and unfortunately they passed over him.
Yeah.
I heard there was protests and all type of stuff on campus from the kids and athletes.
A lot of student athletes, were really in his corner, and they really wanted him to have that. Alex has supported a lot of student athletes that didn't necessarily play.
Without question.
For the women's basketball team. They could stop by his office at any given time. Hey, coach, this is going on right now. I need some advice. This is going on. Or one of the other coaches from one of the other teams aren't on campus, and you got a kid that's having bursar issues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or something. And he's there to always help.
Did that support make it to the desk of the people that were making the decision?
I don't know. So while I was working there, right, I was sure that coach was going to get it. I thought he was going to get it. So I didn't know that there was this thing happening until it happened, right? And I can't tell you what happened. I really don't know what happened. I know that as soon as the word got out that he might not get it, right, student athletes, jumped on it and started rallying up, which was beautiful to see because he deserved, that type of love.
That support, that push.
Yeah.
When I heard about it, I was mad nobody called me. You know what I'm saying? Call me William Holly, the podcaster. If y'all wanted help getting a message out, call me William Holly, the executive director of My City. You know what I'm saying? We got access to newsletters and stuff. Like, this is what this is for. So we can be heard. And then when I saw who they selected, he ain't from the network.
Well, he's
from outside.
He not from Brooklyn, but he from, he was at Hostos.
He was at Hostos, a junior college.
Yeah.
Alex Lang has been working as the assistant AD for 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
You bring somebody in from a junior college?
That surprised me as well. Again, I don't even know how this process works in terms of how they pick.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know.
Now, Smiles is his name, Eric Smiles. He recruited me a great deal when I came out of Kingsborough.
He was at Farmingdale?
He was at Farmingdale, head basketball coach.
Yeah.
Very intense dude. He's from Hostos Junior College. He coached at NY Poly. He coached at Farmingdale. And now he's the AD. No real ties to the campus. He has a basketball background. That makes me wonder if my man's time, like if he's on the clock, Jeffrey Jean Baptiste. I fear that maybe we all on the clock as far as we got to do the job to perform. But now I feel like there's even more pressure. What do you think?
I don't know if that's if it's pressure. I feel like that's a conversation that Jeff will probably have with Smiles, and he'll probably want to know his philosophy and things of that sort. I don't see him coming in to just shake the whole thing up. He still got to learn Brooklyn a little bit. So I think Jeff got some time. I think Jeff got some time.
Because I'm behind my coach. Like whatever we got to do.
No, we're behind him. We're behind him.
Smiles is an intense dude. He has a basketball background. Here you are. You get the opportunity to be an AD. He probably got a Rolodex of people he won that spot. You know what I'm saying? When I saw how that played out, I was like, yo, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. My City, Stan.
Yes.
Last year, you coached your beloved Bulldogs.
Yes.
What was that experience like, man?
It was amazing from the time it started. Well, the build-up was great. You did a great job with the build-up. Because at first, it was just like, all right, My City, let's see how this thing goes. And then a lot of people started calling my phone, man. Like, yo, Stan, I'm on the team or not? I'm like, yo, I don't pick no players. And I don't want no parts of picking players. Guys, listen to me. Anybody listening, all alumni. I do not select players. I just show up that day and I coach. It's all love, but I have not selected players. Oh, man.
It's hard, man. It's hard. There's so many people that want to participate,
Everybody
man.
wants to play.
We try to do our best to get as many people as we can in. What was it like coaching, though? Like, take us into the huddles, the bench.
Again, from the time you started promoting it, from the time I walked into the gym, right, I was pleasantly surprised in terms of the aesthetics. It looked beautiful in there that day. so many people, and it wasn't, people I haven't seen in a long time with their families, with their kids, current players that are playing right now that don't even know some of these people.
They came out.
They come to support, and it just shows how important that event was for community building. That's an amazing CUNY event. And it's no knock on CUNY, but we've never had nothing like that, right? So it's dope to have everybody come together like that and celebrate the city game. We have a very special thing, right? So to come and celebrate the city game like that was amazing. All the families, and then to get a chance to be with all these wonderful young ladies. We have a blast together, jokes for days. It was from the time it started to the time it ended, taking pictures. Of course, I would rather win than lose, right? And it came down in true fashion to like the last play, right, which was dope too. But if that happens this time, I'll call a better player. I'll be more prepared.
What are some lessons you learned as far as coaching and managing the different generations? Like, because I'm looking over there from afar, I'm like, yo, I don't envy that position. There's a lot of people that are used to playing and having things ran for them. What I guess lesson did you learn that you may apply this second year?
I gotta pay a lot of attention in the first couple of minutes to fatigue. Like who's tired? Because I don't know what shape they're in.
Yeah.
I don't know who's been balling, who hasn't. So you still have this idea of who this person used to be, right? And their pain threshold or their ability to play tired. Yeah. And it ain't the same. It ain't the same. But I think that's it. Just trying to figure out who's in shape and who's not, and especially towards the end of the game, playing the players that are in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, Stan, that event was for you. We did the interviews, and I was telling everybody, like, the event was inspired by each individual, and the same is for you. Stan, I knew how much you loved that program, the hand you played in building that program, but your career took you in a different path. But you still a Bulldog. Oh, yeah. And we wanted to make sure you still had a way to connect with your girls.
Oh, that was beautiful.
And they were excited to have you. You said something to me that day, which is one of the coolest things. You said, well, I don't even think the people here know what this is. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Because it's new.
Yeah.
Right? It's new. And everybody shows up and, there's expectations, right? There's things that you want to see. There's things that you don't know. There's people that you don't even know you're going to run into. So when I saw it, I didn't know what it was, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm taking it in, and it was so dope just to see everybody like having a great time, and even some of the games got a little chippy. You know what I'm saying? Like to see that competitive edge between people is, it's great. And then just everybody saluting each other for the work that they put in to make this conference what it is. And it was a lot of people saluting each other like, hey, great job. Even the girls from Hunter, we lost the game to them. Yeah. And they came over. It was like, yo, let's take pictures. It was a moment that we'll never get back. For sure. In that way. So it was just great, man.
It was a great vibe. Even you was on the bench for the men's game too.
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell guys, like, yo, we all a part of each other's stories.
Family.
If I think back to some of my biggest wins, they big wins because of the level of competition I was going against. You know what I'm saying? We probably couldn't shake hands and stuff the way we did back then, but 10 years later, I could give you that salute.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And we could still go out there and compete. And everybody love Coach Stan. The girls, their parents, everybody, like, hopefully we have a bigger turnout this year. It was great to see Jeff out there on the court too. You know what I'm saying? I love to see the players with their coaches. Jeff, Meek, guys that help to nurture and mentor these young men. Now they all on the same court. So that's one of the biggest things I enjoy about my city. What'd you guys do for the Super Bowl this year?
We kept it chill, man. Me, the guys, my brother's a football coach in the U-Trade, so he's a big football guy. Yeah. So I was hanging out with him and a couple of my guys. We just at a bar chilling, watching the game.
This is the first year 2 black quarterbacks started the game. I had no idea that happened. 2023, I figured we had been there already. But no, this was the very first year. And a lot of the stories were coming about the black quarterback and their journey. What's your earliest memory of perhaps watching a black quarterback?
Oh, man. Warren Moon days. Yeah. Right? That run and shoot out in Houston. Right? Warren Moon what's the brother from Washington, man?
Doug Williams?
Doug Williams, right? Doug Williams. Of course, like the greats, like Warren Moon was great.
Yeah.
But the sensationalized players, the players that just had you going crazy, like Mike Vick.
Yeah.
That era of quarterbacks it was rare.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you saw all the time.
Did you know that, like, yo, this is rare, like, back at that time? Because all of the stories that came out about the journey of the black quarterback that played out this year during the Super Bowl made me reflect. And when I look back, some of my favorite players, Steve McNair, like, I didn't know at the time that I was attracted to these guys because they look like me. But that's the way it was. Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb. At the time, did you know that, like, back then that you were watching something special or anomaly?
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like that because you know what it is with ESPN becoming the way it is now, and all these media outlets, right? These stories, they're spoken about widespread,
Right?
Right? You hear the stories all the time, and back then you didn't hear that perspective.
Right.
People didn't speak through that lens. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, he's great. He's a running quarterback, or he has a great arm and he's great. But this idea of there's not enough black quarterbacks in the league wasn't even a conversation, that I was aware of. Right. Not enough black coaches. I wasn't aware of that. Those weren't things. It was like one of those things like, oh, it's supposed to be a white quarterback and a black running back. Mm-hmm. A white running back or fullback. White fullback makes sense.
Right.
Like Mike Allstott.
Yes.
Right. It was like, that makes sense. But then you got a McCaffrey, right, on the 49ers right now. That was rare. It was like, oh wow, you got somebody like that. So I wasn't aware of those conversations. Mm-hmm. Not as a early teen.
When I seen the Super Bowl play out in the stories, first time two black quarterbacks are going head to head, I started to do a lot of reading. Jason Reed actually wrote a book, The Rise of the Black Quarterback, which went back in the history, talked about Doug Williams, talked about Warren Moon. What else did I read? I ended up reading Warren Moon's autobiography. This is all since the Super Bowl. And Warren Moon, coming out of college, he ended up going to play in the CFL for many years because he couldn't get an opportunity in the NFL. He had to go to the CFL, prove himself, then he came there. And when I look at the trials and tribulations that Doug Williams and these early guys went to, it makes me wonder is it possible that some of these black quarterbacks have underachieved? You mentioned Mike Vick. Like, Warren Moon and them went through the grinder for teams to say, okay, now we can trust a black quarterback to be selected in the first round and give him franchise money. And then some of these guys dropped the ball. Is it possible that the black quarterback has actually underachieved, Stan?
Well, I'll say when you look at some of the, I'll take, why am I not remembering his name right now? Griffin.
RG3, Robert Griffin III. Yes.
Perfect example.
Yes.
This dude in college played in a spread offense. Mm-hmm. Spread offense. Tearing defenses apart. He comes to the NFL, they give him 3 tight ends. Mm-hmm. They give him 3 tight ends, 2 running backs, and basically tell him, run.
Right.
These offensive coordinators, right? Mm-hmm. These offensive coordinators and a lot of the people that get to train the quarterback are the ones that I would say are leading to the underachievement. Because somebody like RG3 should have never had the career that he had.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This dude was dynamic. He proved it in college.
Yeah.
Played in the spread offense. How do you play in a spread offense in college and then you come to the NFL? I gave you 3 tight ends.
That is very possible. His coach, Mike Shanahan, wasn't really fond of him early on. Mm-hmm. That's why they ended up drafting Kirk Cousins a little bit later in the draft. So you're right. That's part of their success. The offensive coordinators and the team willing to buy in to their quarterback's talents. But a guy like Michael Vick is the first black quarterback ever drafted #1 overall.
Yeah.
Like, this was a new thing because, again, organizations didn't think that the guys were smart enough, these guys were responsible enough to lead a franchise, right? Warren Moon, Doug Williams, Donovan McNabb put that work in so organizations could say, okay, now we can trust the black guy. And Mike Vick ends up with a federal indictment.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell ends up with a lean addiction. Mm-hmm. So I when I was watching that play, I was saying, they'll never say that on ESPN, but I find myself being frustrated. Is it fair that the black man got to be twice as good? No. But them brothers kind of dropped the ball.
You know what frustrates me about that? It's the media coverage, right? A lot of the media coverage is very irresponsible, extremely irresponsible. It's not to say that Mike Vick didn't do what he did. Of course he did what he did, right? But when is there ever a hockey player that drinks and drives? When is there ever a hockey player that has some sort of domestic issues? We don't hear about them. They don't even cover the personal lives of hockey players, right? So if you're watching these media outlets enough, you start to think that basketball players and football players are the only ones out here wilding out.
Getting in trouble, right?
Mind you, you have the National Soccer League. These dudes is doing all types of crazy stuff, right? Right? You got hockey. You got all these other sports and all these other athletes that do get in trouble, that do make the same mistakes, that are rich and young and do crazy stuff. But we're definitely, the microscope is definitely on black athletes.
What'd you think of the Lamar Jackson situation and how it played out this season? I don't know if you heard today, but the organization franchise tagged him, non-exclusive tag, so he's free to go negotiate and they have the chance to match it. What'd you think about how that whole situation played out this year?
So from what I know, right? Lamar Jackson, I believe his agent is his mother.
Yes, sir.
Right? That is, I just don't feel that's responsible. I don't feel that's responsible.
That's a unique take, Stan. Most people say, yo, he should be able to handle his affairs. That's unique. Go ahead.
I feel like, yes, your mother should be involved, but for her to be the agent, there's a certain level of I'd be worried about, and it showed in some of his dealings that I think his team needs to be a little bit more broad. I'm not saying dump mom, without a doubt. Keep mom, but you need a bigger team. If he doesn't already have one, I don't know. But having a black quarterback, having his mother as his agent, to me is a little irresponsible in terms of dealing with the NFL. I think you need a little bit more.
This is very unique, Stan. Some would say, yo, this is the age of athlete empowerment. You got LeBron James moving around with his friend Rich Paul. Like, if Lamar Jackson knows what he wants, he should be able to represent himself.
Now, LeBron and Rich, just like I was telling you about me and Jeff.
Yes, sir.
You know, our conversations could be like this, and it could be like that, right? If my mother was my agent, I'd have a hard time saying certain things, you know? And I don't know Lamar's relationship with his mom, obviously, but I don't know. I think that was interesting, that's the stance that he took. And you see, he's not being valued the way he's supposed to be valued.
Now, many people believe that he did suffer an injury, but they felt he could have came back and played in the season, but he didn't because he didn't have that contract.
Well, you got to protect yourself, right? Your career is not going to last forever. Now,
Stan, at the beginning of the year, he implemented a deadline. If we don't work out a deal before the beginning of the season, I'm going to stop negotiation. I'm going to play my way through. Seemingly, I guess he felt that he was going to be able to raise his value. So how could you now pout and sit out in the middle of the season, Stan?
I don't know. That's a good question. And that, again, that does come back down to your team. Like, who's advising you? Because you're taking a huge chance here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of money being left on the table. So, I don't know.
I thought that was just a poor act of leadership. I feel like he sunk his team's season. Yo, bro, as a teammate, I want you to get your money. Nobody going to feed your family. But if you decide to walk through the doors, I need you to be ready to perform.
So now I ask this question, right? So, okay, valid point. Now, the organization also wants to win, correct?
Yes.
So can they find a middle ground? Because they're not willing to budge neither.
You under contract for this year. Either you hold out, but if you show up, you cannot get upset and pout in the middle of the season. You impose that deadline of, yo, if we don't get it done, I don't want to negotiate in the middle of the season. I'm going to play out. We just watched Aaron Judge do it for the Yankees. He said, yo, if we don't get a deal before the beginning of the season, I'm going to just play it out. He played it out to the tune of being an AL MVP, getting busy, setting a record for most home runs in the AL. I felt that was a poor act of leadership on Lamar Jackson's part. Now, he's currying favor from the fans, like, yeah, pay our guy. But as a teammate, like, yo, bro, you walk through these doors, you gotta ball.
Yeah.
You got a ball, man. After the Super Bowl, the story, of course, is Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Like, why this guy can't get a job? He would end up leaving the Chiefs and going to the lateral position with the Washington Redskins. You saw that?
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I don't know. You see this happen in NFL a lot, though. Like, this sort of thing happens. So I can't call it, right? It's one of those things. It's like, I don't know where he fell short. I don't know what the conversation is. You know what I'm saying? Like, why? I need a little bit more because I don't really know the backstory in terms of why. I don't know.
Stan, I felt like, yo, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the NFL. Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's possibly coaching the best football player ever. And he goes to the Washington Redskins. If the belief is you can't get a job because you black, going over there don't change that. Yeah. The Washington Redskins are a team that's not stable. Their owner's under investigation. Like, if this is his decision making, it makes sense why he can't get a job, Stan.
Yeah.
This is nuts. Furthermore, Stan, you talk about leadership. Because he can scheme something doesn't mean he gets to be the CEO of the team. No?
Well, so this is another conversation, right? Because a lot of offensive coordinators, right, especially on high-octane offensive teams, right, there can be some ego behind that.
Okay.
Right? There can be. I'm not saying there is, but I can only imagine if I'm the OC, right?
Yeah.
And our money, the way we make our money is our offense, like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Kansas City, they put up points. People come see Kansas City score the football.
Yes, sir.
Right? I could imagine the level of confidence, right, an OC can have in terms of being the person that runs the show a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I can see how that could be an issue.
Now, with Eric Bieniemy, if he goes to Washington and the Kansas City Chiefs continue to be successful, which we think they will be, with possibly the greatest football player ever in Patrick Mahomes, that gives the NFL the license to say, see, it wasn't Bieniemy. I think this guy's going to sink whatever little value he has, Stan.
Now, you remember Mahomes in the Super Bowl a couple of years back?
Yes.
Against Tampa Bay?
Yes.
Right? They frustrated him.
Oh, yeah.
They frustrated him. He learned from that.
Mahomes?
He learned from that. Yeah, he had to learn from that.
Right.
Because they had him in circles.
They had him running crazy.
He looked crazy that game, right? Is it safe to say that maybe Bieniemy kind of helped him get back to a different level?
Without question, it's possible, Stan. But for whatever reason, they said the guy had 15 interviews or something. He's not closing the deal when he goes in these rooms. Something may be missing. Maybe it's in the leadership department. How come we never heard him speak?
Yeah.
You go into one of the worst franchises, you think that's going to help you? You got Andy Reid as your coach at Kansas City who is singing your praises because Andy Reid is comfortable in his position. You go to Washington with a head coach maybe looking for a job in a year or two himself. Like, that dynamic, to walk away from the Chiefs at this moment, that's just not very smart, son. And to me, it just highlights, like, dang, if he had to make them type of decisions, it makes sense why he can't get a job.
Do you remember when Tom Thibodeau was the defensive coordinator on the Boston Celtics?
Yes, sir.
Right? We've never seen nothing like that.
Both coaches standing up.
Both coaches standing up. This guy, eyes, like he's screaming. Yeah. He's screaming out coverages from the sideline.
Yeah.
Then later on, we find out that he's this mastermind, and these are the things that he brings to the table, right? And then he slides off and gets a head coaching job.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, this guy, that's not his thing. He's a defensive coach. Right? He's gonna go over there. And he got criticized for years for not knowing
the offensive side.
For years. I never thought that he was that bad on offense. But once you get that label,
Yeah.
you know, once they give you that label, that might follow you, right? And that might be the case with him. Maybe they're saying like, look, yeah, you're an offensive guy, but maybe you don't bring enough on this side.
Right.
You know, that could be the case with him. And Thibodeau finally snapped. They finally giving him credit now.
Yeah.
Finally, like, oh wow, he's so smart. Quigley but for a long time it was like, yo, he destroys young players.
Yeah.
I disagreed. I thought he developed Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Joakim Noah. I thought he developed all those players. But for a long time, he got this. You know, that was the narrative.
Yeah.
You know, so I could see that happening to Bieniemy as well.
Is there anything that can be done to help black coaches ascend? You know, there's the Rooney Rule where teams have to interview minority candidates, but many people think those are just token interviews. The owner and the franchise already have their ideal candidate. Is there anything that can be done to help minority coaches fill some of these positions?
Ooh, that's a very loaded question. I think, you know, to understand, we don't spend a lot of time talking about owners and their philosophies. We don't.
No, sir.
Right? We spend a lot of time talking about it's like rap music, right? I don't mean to go into rap.
Go for it.
But you have all these companies like you take Young Money. We know who runs Young Money, right? We know who runs this. But who runs Universal? Who runs Sony? Who's the CEO of Sony? We don't talk about those people.
Right.
So when something happens to the artist, we lock in on what we know, but the parent company, the person at the top, we never talk about. So when we're talking about hiring black coaches, we got to talk about who are the owners and what are their philosophies, right? We got to put a little bit more pressure on who's at the top and not just the middleman. You know what I mean?
For sure. Stan, I find you to be a dynamic dude who, when you walk in a room, you can make things happen. No matter who's in the room, black, white, male, female.
I would like to think that.
And that is a skill. I don't think that just happens by chance. I like to consider myself that type of individual also. When you walk in a room, no matter who's there, you understand the dynamic. So, Stan, can you offer us any insight to brothers who may find themselves in being the only black in the room, the only male in the room, and still being able to get the job done, still being able to perform? I'll give my little 2 cents. When I walk in a room, I try to figure out what my value is and make sure everybody else knows what my value is in that room. So that's my little 2 cents.
So I come with purpose, right? I come with purpose. So if I'm here to do this job, or if I'm here, I'm in the room for a purpose already. I got up that morning, I set a goal, I'm going to achieve that goal, right? Once I walk in that room and I've set that goal, I want to make sure, number one, that goal is specific. I want to make sure it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and there's a timetable to it. So if I'm there for 2 hours, I'm going to give my best 2 hours. And every conversation I have, I'm going to speak with love, right? I don't believe love and fear can sit in the same seat. I believe you're either doing something out of love or you're doing it out of fear, right? And I don't like the process within fear. I don't like the process. I don't want to ever let the moment get so crazy that I'm so scared. Or, of course, fear comes,
yes, sir.
But I don't want to act out of that. I want to act out of love. So if I'm having a conversation with you and it's a hard conversation, I'm gonna do it with love, right? If the moment gets crazy, even when my kids get into fights at the school, and you know I'm trying to break it up, but it's with love.
Yeah.
I try to keep my ego out of it. I'm not worried about the way I look, the way I sound. As long as I'm doing it with love, I trust that I'm working within my purpose.
Yeah. That's dope, man. Love and fear. I think you said that last time. Love and fear can't reside in the same place. But that's dope, man. Because I think a lot of brothers walk in the room and they just feel defeated.
And it happens. And it has to happen. Like that feeling, you can't make it not. But the composure you have, especially when you're setting goals. A lot of our brothers set goals. And we were talking before about this, before the interview. A lot of our brothers set goals, right, that aren't necessarily achievable or attainable yet, right?
Right.
So then they can't measure it, right? And there's no timetable to it because it's so, so now you walk into this room and of course you feel uncomfortable because you don't see the finish line. It's like, well, if I'm the, you pick your favorite point guard.
Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson, right? He gets past the first defender, in and out, crossover, gets past the second, hezzy, gets past the third, gets past the fourth, gets past the fifth defender. At this point, he should be at the rim.
Yes, sir.
What if there's no rim? All these skills he got don't even matter because there's no goal.
Wow.
There's no goal. The boy, he's talented, but there's no goal. So without that goal, without that basket, without that end zone, how long can you keep on going? You're going to fall into the fear. You're going to fall, it's going to be hard to persevere and get past all these obstacles because you don't have a goal. So our brothers, when we walk into these rooms, got to have a goal. You got to have specific goals and really lock in on that.
Do you write goals down, Stan?
Yeah, now I do.
Yeah.
So I'm my fiance, who I'm getting married to in May.
Congratulations,
May
brother.
20th this year. She's also pregnant.
Salute.
So baby's due in 4 weeks.
Wow.
So my mind is constant. My mind has never been like this. Now my mind is really all over the place. I'm a Gemini, so my thoughts be all over the place. Yeah. But now it's really like that. So I write down a lot more things now about the things that I want for my daughter. I'm having a daughter as well. For my family, for my students, even today, I was like, I gotta make it here at before 7 because I told Will I was gonna be here. So as soon as the game was over, I ran here.
That's low.
I gotta write those things down. If not, I'm gonna be all over the place.
Long term, short term, how do you break it down?
Long-term goals and short-term goals?
Yeah.
So short-term goals...
No, I'm just saying, when you write down, like, what's your approach?
Both.
Yeah.
I have my long-term goals in my phone because I'm in my phone every day. I have them in my office, right? My office looks a lot like this, by the way, a lot like this. So I have them in my office. My short-term goals are in my phone. That's daily. That's something I got to go to daily. So one of my short-term goals might be like, look, today I want to speak to at least 4 or 5 athletes about their grades, right? Or, hey, I got to make sure mom gets some medication today. That's a short-term goal, like little simple stuff. So that's in my phone. But my long-term is up on the wall. At work and at home.
That's dope. Stan, you been in them high schools for how long now?
2008. Just about 2008. How long is that, man?
2008. I'm no math wizard.
15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
So about 15 years, yeah.
I've been working as a sub last couple years. My only experience outside of that was my own time in high school, which I graduated in 2003. A lot has changed.
A lot.
What would you say are some of the bigger changes you've seen over your 15 years in a New York City public high school?
I would say our kids now have way more distractions than we had. We didn't have these sort of distractions. You know what I'm saying? Like, also identity, right? We didn't have all these options for identity neither. Like you go on Instagram and you got Instagram models that look like this, and you got these brothers that look like this, and you know exactly what they're wearing, and all these different, like, you could be anybody you want now, right? And you're spending so much time on these platforms that they're shaping your mind.
Yeah.
Right? They're shaping your mind. And I talk to my students about health a lot, right? Mental health, intellectual health, and whatever you put in your body, whether it's food, whether it's sound, whether it's words, it affects your mental health. And our young people are ingesting a lot of toxicity.
I don't want to be a victim of just paying attention to articles or things I see on TV, but is this generation less happy? Is that a real thing?
It's hard. It's very hard to be happy because you're never good enough, right? Never good enough. We'll take a situation like let's take a high school basketball game like today.
Yeah.
My precious Grady Falcons lost to
Law and Tech Jets.
To Law and Tech. Grady had a great season. Great season. Division champs. Great season. The division championship in 1995 would have been celebrated hard. That division championship would have been celebrated hard. You could have lost in the chip, could have lost in the Sweet 16. That division championship would have been celebrated hard. That division championship right now is the last thing on those boys' minds. And it's going to go, we're going to go 2 years from now and maybe not even talk about it, right? But it was a goal. It was achieved. It was beautiful. It was a great moment. And it's something to be celebrated. But it's hard to be good enough in this environment.
It's hard to be good enough in this environment. Stan, that's a great example. And many times I'm looking at my kids and I see that. The disappointment. Because they don't have this follow, that follow. How do we help them, Stan?
So there's a great book, right? And I suggest that everybody, right, who works with young people, take a look at this book, right? Mm-hmm. It's my man Torrance Hampton.
Okay.
Right? It's a brother that wrote this book. It's called Genius Factor. It talks about how everybody has a genius. Everybody has a genius. It's about finding that genius and really locking in on it, setting goals and making that genius work for you. And not just focusing on how much money you're gonna make one day, but really tapping into this genius so you can make money, right? So you can find joy, right? That joy has to come from you. It can't come from the exterior. We're being taught that joy comes from the outside. It don't come from the inside, right? That joy isn't necessarily your degree, isn't necessarily the house you bought. It's the genius that you use to acquire these things, right? So it's a wonderful book. It's called Genius Factor by Torrance Hampton.
Stan, did I get this correct? You're working as a drug and alcohol counselor too?
SAPS counselor, yeah. So substance abuse, intervention, prevention specialist, yeah.
Would you say the substance abuse has been kicked up?
Without a doubt. So when you're dealing with the vaping and things of that sort, so these kids don't even realize, a lot of young people don't even realize that this is like nicotine. They won't even smoke a cigarette.
Nope.
Right? But they'll smoke this
vape.
Very attractive, colorful, available,
fruit flavored
thing. Weed, right? A lot of our young people, their parents openly smoke, right? So they smoke, right? Or a relative smokes, so they smoke. And then with not feeling like good enough, right? They're tapping into these drugs and these substances to feel better just for a little bit. Just for a little bit. And then it wears off and the same issues that you had are still there. So you get a little bit more, you get a little bit more. And it's happening at such an early age, middle school and things. So we have a huge fight within our system right now in terms of mental health.
Do you feel like your job is impossible? Like to try and save and help these kids? Like how do you not feel like, yo, I could never save all these kids? Like how does that not kind of deter you?
So what's beautiful, right? I'm part of My Brother's Keeper, right? I'm actually the chairman for district. I'm a co-chair for District 21. So Dewey, Grady, Lafayette, Rachel Carson, you name it, Lincoln, we all come together, right? And we're under our superintendent, Michael Prayer. We have these meetings, right? Sometimes the chancellor's there, and we all sit down and we come up with solutions, right? It's a beautiful thing. So to be part of a network like that and see people talking about the issues in our neighborhood, in our schools, in our communities, and actually sitting down and talking about and coming up with solutions, student-led. Student-led gives me a lot of hope because it just shows we got to create more of that, right? It's not going to be all fixed in one day, but we got to create more of that. I didn't have that growing up. So just imagine like a brother like yourself who is always looking to uplift, right? With the same spirit you have now, just imagine you were being groomed in ninth grade. In ninth grade. Right. By people in power. Right? By
that meant the world. That meant the world, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And having access to Barack Obama, to having access to the chancellor, you know what I'm saying, and your superintendent, and being able to have a voice and a seat at these tables. That's amazing. So, that's what I look forward to in terms of creating more of that for our young people. I'm a part of the Gentleman's Factory. Jeff Lindor, who also graduated from Grady High School, played at Grady High School back in the day, he created the Gentleman's Factory.
Oh yeah.
An amazing network of young men, well, of men, of color, who are doing the same, who are in boardrooms, buying property and doing business deals and doing amazing stuff. I didn't know these things were existing until I was a part of it.
I didn't know you was a part of that.
Yeah.
I learned at the Gentleman's Factory when I was getting a suit made, and a dude invited me to this. He said this is his office, and I'm like, yo, this place is kind of snazzy.
Yeah.
That's the one on Flatbush.
So there's two of them now.
There's one on Fulton or something.
Yeah, amazing space.
That's dope, man.
24-hour access.
That's pretty dope. They had a podcast space in there too.
Podcast space, very nice.
We've been trying to connect for a long time. Things just kept popping up. I said, I want to get Stan's take. And I thought about you when Takeoff from the Migos got killed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, these young men are watching their favorite rappers get gunned down.
Mm-hmm.
What impact you think that's having on them? Like it's like getting extinguished like it's nothing, Stan.
I think for a lot of our young people that it's so common now, right? When we were younger, I'm 43.
38 in 2 weeks.
Oh, it's coming up. It's coming up. Beautiful thing. When Biggie got killed, that hurt. Like, I cried. Like, that hurt. I watched, like, all of Brooklyn and the pain that was associated with that image and that story. Then you had Tupac. People cried. Like, our kids ain't really crying.
No, sir.
There's a certain, we're desensitized to the story because it's happening so much,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost expected. It's expected, right? The music has gotten so violent. Not just the music, the culture has gotten so violent. And it was violent before. There was a level of violence, but there was balance. Yeah, you had NWA and some of that, but then you had the Fugees.
Yeah.
You had Fushnickens. You had De La Soul. You had conscious hip hop. You had gangster hip hop. You had club hip hop. You had stuff to choose from. This right now is constant. It's an attack on the mind. Like I said, it's like food.
Yeah. You got to be careful what you intake.
What you're taking in. And then our kids are taking this stuff in, and it's almost out of control because a lot of the parents don't even know what's going on, right? Like, they don't know the new words,
Yeah.
the new lingo that's out. Every day if you don't work in the school, you have no idea what to do with young people.
No idea, Stan.
It's hard, right? I'm not saying parents don't know what to do with their kids, but like these groups of young people and the culture that they're participating in, right? Even the dances that they're doing and where it's coming from, like the Philly stuff and the Jersey stuff. Parents don't know where this stuff is coming from, right? And a lot of educators don't know.
They don't.
So now the kids are literally teaching themselves.
Yo, Stan, speaking of music, when we go to play some of these high schools, we play the hip hop. Yo, Stan, I went to one high school. They playing the hip hop with the curses.
Yeah.
Yo, I was mortified.
Yeah.
And these songs, you say, is getting more violent. We lacking balance, which is true. These songs are naming real people that are deceased.
Yeah.
Stan, I looked around like, damn, I'm the old guy. Like, is nobody else sick by this?
Yeah.
And our young men are just getting planted in the head that their life is easily extinguishable.
Yeah, our young men and our young women. Our young women have taken on that take as well. So at my school, right, at Grady we have some amazing people, right? Miss Kima Jones, who's worked at Grady for a very long time. She's also ambassador for My Sister's Keeper.
Okay.
And chair for my Sister's Keeper in our district. You know, everything after school goes through her. Alongside our APs as well, but everything goes through her. So the music we play, where the fans sit, how we exit, you know, everything is planned, right? I'm not gonna say the school because I don't want to throw nobody under the bus, but there's been some high schools that I've been to watch my godson play and other people. There's no control.
None.
Over the crowd, and there doesn't seem to be a need for it. So if I bring my 4-year-old child to a game, my 4-year-old, to come watch her big brother play,
Yeah.
right? She should be as protected as anybody else in there.
Without question.
Right? That gym shouldn't be left to the wolves. That's a family center.
Yeah.
Right? College coach walks in the gym. It used to happen to me all the time. It's embarrassing. I come to watch this student athlete play. I got the Brooklyn College gear on. My shirt's tucked in. I'm ready to go. Yo, blah, 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 blah. And the kids, I could smell the weed smoke on the kids in front of me. And I'm in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things. We got to represent our high schools better, and we got to have the Kima Joneses of the world in working after school. Let's pay these people to make sure that our after-school events are ran well, because after-school events represent your school to the fullest. That's the most people you're going to see in a space for that amount of time.
For sure.
Football game, it's going to be like 100 people out there.
They in there.
Right? That's the representation of your institution. Basketball game, you're going to have 50 to 100 people all piled up for 2 hours. Gym class might be huge, but that's 45 minutes. You got 2 hours. This is a representation of your environment.
For sure.
So we got to pay people to make sure that those events are ran smooth.
There was one song that I learned of this season. I guess the lyrics go, so-and-so got hit in their bean. You familiar with this song, Stan?
I've heard it, but I know what getting hit in your bean means.
Yeah, it's about somebody that got hit in that bean. So if you beat a team, you say, oh, so-and-so got hit in that bean. Yo, bro, I was like, yo, this is too much.
Yeah.
Like there's no balance. It's too much. And I wonder subconsciously the impact it's having on these young men.
Without a doubt, you see it on social media even more now. All the fights happen.
Yes.
Right? And that's because we are creating the environments for that. Parents, the audience watching the game, coaches, referees that aren't necessarily skilled in terms of how to de-escalate.
Yeah.
There's refs. Jump ball situation, 2 players on the floor. What are you waiting to blow the whistle for? Make a decision. It's gonna go down there.
Yeah.
Like we see it happen all the time. So everybody involved we need to make these spaces way more safe. And the music cannot be that. Just like to what you're saying, there's no way the music can be like that.
So are we going to be the corny school that doesn't play these tunes? And this is why I reach out to you. I feel like your jobs is becoming impossible today.
So shout out to Mr. Bruce Filosa, right? The old AD at Brooklyn College, right? Bruce, you can say a lot about Bruce, but one of the things that Bruce made sure of is that our product was not tampered with. So he had to hear the music in advance. Who knows if he knew what he was listening to?
Yeah.
But I knew what he was listening for.
Yeah.
He heard a curse word, that's not playing.
That's not it.
Right? That CD's not playing tonight. Right? We got to make sure that we're protecting our brand. And he did a very good job at that for a long time in protecting stuff like that and making sure that we weren't the institution where you come to a game with your 5-year-old and that's happening. You know what I'm saying? And again, a lot of APs, right, and a lot of principals don't know what's happening in their school after school. They don't know exactly. They're trusting other people with that, right? There needs to be a bigger push in terms of taking care of those events and making sure that we're good.
It's great you brought up Bruce Filosa because I did want to bring him up. I guess we talked about Brooklyn has a new AD, Eric Smiles. Bruce Filosa was there for a long time. What would you say his legacy is and should be?
Without a doubt, protecting the brand, right? Bruce hired me. I'll tell you a funny story. So when Bruce hired me, I spoke to Alex. He said, all right, look, listen, it looks like you're going to get the position, but you got to talk to Bruce, right? So I'm about 24, 25 years old. I go in there. I'm sitting down. I'm having a conversation with Bruce. Me and Bruce have a good relationship. I was a student athlete at Brooklyn. Me and him have a good relationship. So I sit down with Bruce. First thing he says is, Stan, you can't date the players. Mind you, I'm 25 years old. Some of these players are 21, 22 years old. So first thing he says, like, look, these are the rules. These are when you show up to the games, you got to have a suit and a tie on. You got to wear a suit. You got to wear shoes. And it's so funny to see now because all the coaches don't wear suits no more. Everybody wears like the polos and stuff like that.
Drives me crazy, yeah.
But he was all about protecting the brand. everything we did at Brooklyn was for a reason. And sometimes, especially as a young person, you're like, yo, this old guy, man, come on, you're doing too much. But his legacy for me was what in terms of how he protected the program. Because we still have that legacy to this day. When people come to Brooklyn College, they feel safe.
Without question. And I would add on, I was thinking about his legacy, the fact that he moved on. He ran a clean program.
Yes.
Ran, no banners had to be taken down, no nothing.
Nope.
If you put numbers in the books, you better believe they still there.
Yes.
Take it from somebody who watched his program be broken up at your college. NCAA came in and took some wins away. It didn't affect anything from my career, but for my team, my brothers, my former alumni, watching them accomplish something great and it be taken down.
You don't want that sting.
It's frustrating. Yeah. And Brooklyn College never, ever had to deal with that. He oversaw the construction of a new building that everybody calls on.
Not easy.
So salute to Bruce Filosa. Enjoy retirement. We talk about the music, YSL and the snitching and all that. Does this conversation come up, Stan?
So, so snitching is a very interesting thing, right? So I get the whole idea, like, all right, you chose to do this crime, right? You chose to do this thing. We're all in it together. You can't tell on me when you get caught. I get that, right?
Yeah.
I get that. But then it trickles down into the culture.
Yeah.
Right? Where I get a kid that comes to my office, right? And he says, Stan, there's a couple of students that are talking crazy to me. And I feel like I'm in danger, but I don't want to snitch. What?
Yeah.
Like, you are in danger, right? You are in danger. Your parents sent you to Grady High School. They expect you to be safe.
Yeah.
You're not in a street situation. You're supposedly in the safest place possible right now.
Yeah.
I gotta keep you safe. This is not snitching. So I gotta rebrand snitching. This happens every year. I give a whole presentation on what exactly is snitching.
For real?
Yeah, I have to. Because the ninth graders come in, remember they're eighth graders, right? Yeah. So they're impressionable, they buy all this stuff.
Big time.
They buy all this stuff. They believe in all of this nonsense. So they come in and they gotta be reprogrammed. They gotta be retrained in terms of how to deal with high school, because you don't know how to do high school yet. I got to show you how to do high school. So you come in, all that culture that you're from, that's dead.
Yeah.
Right? We got to slowly kill that, but it takes a while. It takes a while.
Yeah. Another thing I try to show the kids, because I like to call them by their last name. Like I call them Mr. Johnson or something. Mm-hmm. I had a teacher do that to me when I was in Boys and Girls. Made me feel like I was respected. But now when I do that, yo, you the feds, you the FBI, because they government. And like our youth are taking on they default to being like an assumption of criminality. Yes. You ain't a criminal. You ain't got to worry about anything. And there's this talking about snitching and not snitching. I would challenge them to be in a position where you ain't got to worry about snitching.
Now, going back to my brother's keeper, right? If we're creating communities of young men that see the power in not being like that, see, they don't know. Yeah. See, the boys the young men that I have that are part of my brother's keeper, when we go to these conferences, you have every school from Brooklyn South in the building. Mm-hmm. Everybody is in the building. So we're all sitting there, and it's like about 7 or 8 young men per school. Mm-hmm. So you got about 100 of us. And we're having deep conversation. We're talking about impactful, important things. Yeah. And they're doing activities and they're getting to know each other. They've never seen nothing like that before. No. If we're putting our young men in spaces, right, that counter that, right, then we're doing
that
good work.
That criminal element, yeah.
But just talking to them about it, that's not their day-to-day.
Yeah.
Right? But when we put them in these different spaces, then they see the power.
For sure.
Right? Because what they respect is power on that side.
Yeah.
They respect that street power.
Yeah.
Right? But then there's another power that they're not being exposed to. Mm-hmm. Right? So I definitely think anybody that works inside of a school, if you are, you should definitely get down with my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. It's definitely an amazing movement. It's new.
How you do that? How do you get it down?
So most schools have it. Right, most schools have it. I know all of Brooklyn South has it. I don't know about Brooklyn North, but I know all of Brooklyn South has it. So if you speak to your principal about it, Most principals have to answer for it because the superintendents are putting pressure on the principals. Like when they have their principals meetings, they're like, "So how my brother keeper going?" Oh well, they got to say something. So it's definitely something that if you are looking to make a bigger impact, find out who the ambassador is and team up and work. And it's not like there's a limit. You can have as much as 100 kids. I have 30 kids that are part of mine, right? Do all 30 show up for every meeting? No, but we have a presence on campus
every time.
We have a presence. And when somebody says, I'm my brother's keeper, they know what comes with that.
That's what's up.
Also started the Black Student Union at Grady, because I was part of the Black Student Union at Brooklyn College. And I know how impactful that was in terms of having conversations like these.
Yes.
Because it's not happening in the classroom necessarily. It's not happening in the auditorium, and it's not happening in the lunchroom. It's not going to happen in the gym. We got to create the spaces for conversations like this to happen.
For sure.
So when we get together and we're having our meetings as the Black Student Union, we're having these deeper conversations about Black culture and about the changes in terms of young people of color.
Yeah. That snitching stuff though, Stan, like that is getting crazy. And I try to tell the kids like, yo, I don't even have anything to snitch on. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't no square. I go in my neighborhood, those people say what's up, those people say what's up. You gotta, again, you talk about leadership, policing yourself. There was time I'd be in the park and people playing basketball, and then after a while I see a whole bunch of people congregating and nobody's playing basketball. Well, it's time for me to go now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they understand that their teachers, many of the teachers, had to survive those same places.
Yeah.
It's about putting yourself in the right predicament.
Hip-hop culture is probably, and it's so weird, but hip-hop culture is probably one of the only cultures where the older person's voice, the elder's voice, is not respected.
Boom.
Right? So here it is. I'm from the same neighborhood as you, right? And I survived it, and I have all these stories and all these skills that I've accumulated over the years, and I'm sharing it with you, and you're like, come on, man, you ain't hip, old head.
Yeah.
Get out of here, because you're not hip.
Yeah.
Right? You're not cool enough to tell me about anything, right? Yeah. So it is a challenge.
Only in hip-hop culture.
Only in hip-hop culture. What other culture do you find? Only in hip-hop culture do we say crazy stuff like word to my dead. Like stuff like that, like violating the ancestors on all levels.
Yeah.
On all levels. And it has to change. There's great hip-hop artists out there. Our kids need to understand there are great hip-hop artists out there. Mm-hmm. The people being put on TV, right, it's on purpose. Mm. There's other people that don't spit this message, that don't talk like that, but they'll never get airplay, right? And that's what I mean by the responsibility of media. We're not socially responsible with our media, because we don't have to give these people the mic.
No, sir.
They're not the only ones. There's other people out there.
Yeah.
But that's the only people that's going to get these contracts. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Something else that came up that I wanted your help on. I had the PSL executive director in here, Mr. Ray Haskins.
I just saw him at the game. I just saw Ray.
That's what's up. Salute to Ray Haskins. And I was asking him questions about getting things done in the city. He's like, y'all should form a union amongst the coaches. And shout out to Anthony McLean. He was watching. He's like, yo, coach, what we going to do? I'm like, yo, bro, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It sounds impossible to get all these coaches together. And when something sounds impossible, I'm calling Stan Fevrine. Stan, all these coaches. I believe in community. I believe if we are united, we can do anything. But getting the big dogs, the Lawrenceboro Pollards, the Ruth Lovelace, getting everybody on one accord. Like, if we wanted to do something, like, where would we even start?
I think you got to start at the top. You got to start with the chancellor. I think that's something I've learned throughout my years, especially working with my brother's keeper. I think you got to start from the very top. You got to start from the very top, and that's to say, right? What is it that our sports? What are we trying to do with our sports?
Okay.
Right. What is the overall message of the PSAL when it comes to sports? What is the overall message of education? Right? Let's not just separate sports from education. I'm going to tell you something that's very interesting. You take a kid with an IEP, right? You take a kid with an IEP.
Let them know what that is.
It's an intervention plan, right?
Okay.
So for students with special needs or that are struggling in certain areas academically, right? So it's an individualized plan, right? And there's this assumption, right, that the child that has this has issues learning, right, in certain areas.
Okay.
Right? So like, hey, they need a little extra time with tests, and I believe that. But then that same child, you put him on a football field and he's playing offensive line, he knows every play.
Yeah.
He studied every play. He knows every single play. On the dot. Blue 54, all right, I gotta do this. Red 38, okay. I'm gonna get upfield, block him, and
Right.
same child who has an anger problem on paper, right, has composure on the football field. He doesn't let the moment get too crazy.
Right.
He's not getting into fights, and he's banging bodies. People are talking crazy to him, and he's figuring it out. Same child is having a hard time getting through class throughout the day. He's tired, has all the energy in the world over here. So we got to look at education a little bit. We got to look at it a little different because our young people are learning in some very dynamic ways.
Wow.
Right? But there's no tests for what happens on the field. Right? The IEP all of a sudden disappears when this kid goes to play football, when he goes to play basketball, and a coach ain't hearing it. Coach is not saying, "Oh, you gotta, nah, I can't let him run that play," because he's on the field.
You got to know, yeah.
Right? So I think I don't have an answer for that necessarily, but I think there's something to look at. We got to look at education a little bit different, and it starts from the top. I think for the coaches, there needs to be a message, a mission statement from the top.
The top of the coaches or the chancellor?
Chancellor. Working with the coaches, having conversations with some of the coaches, right? To figure out what are some of the needs of the coaches, right? Because before we create a union, we have to know, one, what we're up against. Also, two, what support do we have? If we're not getting support from the top, so then who's next?
But I think that would be a reason to create the union, to apply pressure to the chancellors and the mayors. You know what I'm saying? We can't just wait for a benevolent one to say, hey, what do you guys feel? We got to kind of organize first before we can apply that pressure, no?
So now that's one of those conversations, right? Is it coming from the students or is it coming from the staff? Or is it coming from the parents? Because everybody should be involved. Everybody should be involved. That's a community conversation. And that's why it's so important to have it happen from the top. And I'm not saying wait. Right. I'm saying let's reach out to some of our leaders, right? We all have access to our superintendents, right? We have access to our commissioners, right? Just like you went to Ray and said, hey, Ray. And Ray gave you a great idea. He said, yo, you should start a union. Right? But now starting a union, what does that look like? Because remember, teachers are still part of unions. Still part of the UFT.
Yeah.
There's things you can and you cannot do.
Yeah.
Right? So what are the limitations there? What are the limitations for the coaches that aren't part of the UFT? There's some coaches that are doing this straight out of love. Are they still part of the union?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Stan, you ever had to summon a group to come together to go to battle and fight for some resources from the powers that be? Maybe a principal or a boss or anything?
So I try my best to get my students to learn how to do that, right? Inside the building. I try to teach them how to be assertive and how to go about doing those things.
Stan, you teach them how to challenge authority, to go after?
Without a doubt. This year we haven't had a meeting yet, right, with the principal, but every year the principal comes in with the State of the Black Student Address, right? She comes in, she sits down with BSU, and she has a conversation with them about where they are within the city in terms of their grades.
Any of your coworkers threatened by you teaching the students this?
I think, sometimes you hear stuff, right? Because what's going to happen is, all right, a freshman comes in, right? They don't know the marking periods. They don't know how this works.
Yeah.
So right now, like the first marking period ends March 15th, right? So now this young person if they don't know that the first marking period ends March 15th, how are they going to finish strong?
Right.
right? So instead of getting a 65, they could have easily got a 75 if they would have knew. You know, you need a timetable for your goals. That's what I'm teaching them.
Right.
So now I tell them, like, yo, listen, the first market period ends March 15th. They go to their teacher like, look, listen, I went and I was checking my grades. You ain't grade on my grades.
Wow.
Teacher's like, yeah, I didn't get to it yet. All right, cool. So now grades come out. These magic grades pop up. And you're like, wait, hold on. Didn't I have to have a conversation with you about this?
Yeah.
Stan, she didn't put my grade in. Or he didn't put my grade in. All right, well, the next step is so-and-so. You're talking to ask your parent to come up. You got to teach them how to be assertive for themselves. We have some great teachers at Grady. But people make mistakes. Things happen.
Yo, Stan,
right?
that's crazy. That's the right thing. You got to teach them how to survive in this world.
And I would want somebody to do it for my child. I would want somebody. Not all of our parents speak English.
Yeah.
Not all of our parents know what's going on. So now the kid is up there and they got to figure it out. A lot of our kids aren't even comfortable having a conversation with an adult.
Big time.
So here it is. You know, you don't feel something's right, and you holding it to yourself. Well, you know, where's the love in that? So I try to get my kids to be as assertive as possible.
This is a big deal. So they don't even feel comfortable talking to adults. And you said they just sit there and take it on the chin. They'll fail, they'll this and that.
You know what I'm saying?
But we should be preparing them to stand on their own as they go out in the world.
That's the key.
So what type of tactics? Talk to us, Stan. What type of things you are teaching them to do?
Well, life skills. You know, you want to start with life skills. So little things like, again, setting goals, right? Understanding health and understanding stress. Because stress will make you do some crazy stuff. You're having a hard time in math class, right? You're not doing so well. You did all right in middle school, but now you're in high school, you're not doing so well. It's embarrassing for you to not do well because you're not used to not doing well.
Yeah.
So now you're showing up a little late. Showing up late goes into not coming, right? You're sitting in the back of the class, you hiding, hoping that nobody don't call on you. So you're trying to basically fail on the low.
Yeah.
Or, hey, look, listen, that's stress, right? You have options. So I have something called props through my curriculum that was taught to me through the life skills curriculum, and I use it in sports too, right? So when the stress kicks in, or when the play starts, you know, you catch the ball. First you pause, right? Then you reflect. After you pause, you reflect. Then what are my options? Then you prioritize your options, right? And then you select props. You know what I'm saying? Same thing in basketball. You catch the ball on the wing, you catch.
See what's up.
You see, you know, depending on your game, you might shoot it, you might put it on the floor. What are my options? You pick one, and then you go with it. So I try to teach them how to identify options and then select the right thing to do. Always putting them in good positions, giving them skills to make good decisions. Because a lot of young people just don't. They don't have the skills yet or the tools to make good decisions. And I was one of them. I had the same issues. So in learning and coaching and, you know, all this stuff comes together, you know, I'm just spitting it out. It's not coming from nowhere. You know, I'm learning this stuff.
Yo, Stan, this is dope stuff, man. This is dope stuff, man. You're the environment you created at Grady, not just in the classroom, but in the sports arena. It sounds like the education all of our kids should be getting, not just academics and grades, but life skills. You know, preparing them to go out there and be adults, husbands, fathers, mothers, wives. This is cool stuff. I know a lot of educators feel handcuffed. Like, oh, that's Stan. He got a nice principal or whatever it is. Like,
I do though. I have a great principal. I got a great shout out to Tara Montalbano.
What about those folks that feel like, yo, bro, can't get nothing done in this bureaucracy?
So again, creating these networks, right, and being part of networks, even as far like as networks outside of the school building, right, like Gentleman's Factory. Whenever I'm with these brothers, I get excited. There's not a time that I'm around them and I'm not excited because I'm hearing about stuff that I didn't think was possible, right? So we need to create these spaces for us to come together and have these kind of conversations. So if you have a resource that I need, I can share it with you.
Gotcha. What's next, Stan?
This baby. So her name is Praise. I can't wait till Praise is born. So that's next. Wedding's May 20th. It's in Mexico, so we're planning that. Once I come back from that, I'm gonna sit down with my brother. We're gonna come up with some ideas about. Again, my brother's a football coach at New Utrecht, so we bump ideas off each other a lot. So over the summer is our time to really get together and come up with stuff. So I'm looking forward to the summer and just sitting down and brainstorming and coming up with different ideas and different things and reflecting on the season. This past year, I worked with the soccer team at Brooklyn College, the men's soccer team, girls volleyball, girls basketball, and men's basketball. So I was very blessed to work with so many different teams because I see so many different things. I'm excited right now in terms of how to improve this program and just keep going.
What are you looking forward to most when it comes to fatherhood, and what are you most maybe apprehensive about, or most fearful, or maybe gives you the most anxiety when it comes to fatherhood?
I'm looking forward to raising a child. I had a good run, right? I'm 43, so I waited a while, right? I'm looking forward to sharing all my stories, everything that I learned with this young person, putting them in the best position. Recognizing their genius and looking for it and helping them tap into it, not getting in my kids' way, but definitely being there to guide. What's scary, right? What I fear is the unexpected, right? Because you never know. I had some unexpected things that happened in my life. My father passed away when I was 10 years old, right? So there's things that happen that affect you. And that's the scary thing for me is the unexpected.
When you start to think about your 24 hours as a father, you do a lot of work on Grady. You start to think about time management and what it's going to mean for your presence on the Grady campus and different things like that.
I'm going to definitely have to sit down with my wonderful fiance, right, and figure out what she needs from me, right, and what the family needs from me and how to balance it out. But, it's definitely going to start with her, just having that conversation. Because, sometimes, we feel like we could do it all. And we don't even realize, there's this thing right here that really needs to get done. So I'm going to sit down with her and try to figure that out. We already started having those conversations. But with the way things work, man, every 5 months, just different stuff happening,
That's dope, man. You deserve that because we had you for years. You know what I'm saying? Everybody could rely on Stan, could call on Stan, your players, your students. You know what I'm saying? So congratulations to you and your family. What's the name of the restaurant, man?
Purpose. So we're not there anymore.
No?
We're not there anymore. No. So we had to let it go.
Okay.
Right. So wifey is she's still working in the industry, and I think she's gonna be doing some consulting real soon. But for now, no restaurant.
Okay.
For now.
There's lessons that was learned there, I'm sure.
Oh, amazing lessons. And it brought us so much closer. It brought us so much closer because I really got a chance to see her in her bag and in her purpose and how challenging this can be. And we really made it through the pandemic as well. Yeah. So I really saw the warrior in her, and it definitely made us better. Okay.
One last thing, Stan. You guys are going to be new parents, but we got a live event September 23. I need you to do your best to be there. Please, you and your lady.
What's that?
WBH Radio live show.
Oh, nice.
We going in the city. We got a venue rented out. We're going to do some cool things, cool guests. I need you in that building if you can make it, sir.
Well, you text me, you call me like you always do. I'll be there in a really nice suit.
That's what's up, brother. Yo, Stan, I appreciate you. And I want to tell people, me and Stan have crossed paths through the years, always loved. But I really felt like I got to know him through the stories that are told about him in rooms when he's not present. Your reputation is top notch, sir. I appreciate you being a guest. I appreciate your contribution to my city. I'm behind you. Whatever you do, man, just keep going.
My brother got your back as well. Love is love. I appreciate you, man.
WBH Radio, we out.